What is up, guys? I'm Rick, and today we are going to be showcasing all three of the brand new Stasis Aspects introduced into Destiny 2 with Season of the Splicer. Are these going to make the already notoriously powerful Stasis Subclasses even better? Well, in this video, we are going over what exactly each of these new aspects do, as well as how to get them. And so, let's get started. But just before we do, I've been grinding Season of the Splicer, and if you want to do the same, you gotta have the energy and the focus to do so, and you get that by drinking Advanced GG Focus, baby, the best and only clinically proven gaming supplement out there. I drink it all the time. I'm hopped up on it right now. Use code KHD for a discount, as well as to support the channel. So many fantastic flavors to get as well, including Cactus Kiwi Lime. Now, let's move on to these aspects. Very importantly, even though they've launched with Season of the Splicer, you don't actually need to own Season of the Splicer to get these. In fact, you need to own Beyond Light, so keep that in mind. If you do, you can head down to Europa and talk to the Exo Stranger. She is going to give you the quest Aspect of Interference seen here. Your objective is to investigate the new entropic shards in Kel's Rising. So if you open your directory, you can simply scroll up and see where that is. Thankfully, you can now fast travel to the Eventide Ruins. Once you do, simply follow the marker, but as you're traveling to this location, make sure that you have the Salvation's Grip exotic grenade launcher with you. That's because you will need to be utilizing it to complete this quest. So, fight your way or run past all of the enemies until you eventually get to this location right here. This is going to be where you're going to find your first Darkness Shard. As you can see, it's floating in the air, and you actually need to use that exotic grenade launcher to shoot it. As you can see right here, once you do, then it's going to cause more enemies to spawn. You simply kill them. Once they're dead, you're going to have more of these Darkness Shards to shoot. In fact, there are 5 more Darkness Shards you have to hit. However, unlike the first one, the next 5 do not have an objective marker telling you where they are, so you're just gonna have to find them. Luckily, you're watching a video on how to do so, so I'm gonna show you exactly where these 5 shards are within the background gameplay. Now, once you've hit the final one in this area, a bunch of ad waves are going to spawn. Once you kill all of these ads, your quest step is going to update. Then you're going to have to do a heroic simulation. So open the Europa directory and simply load into the simulation mission, as you can see. Now, in here, it's kind of what it normally is. However, there are going to be champions, which there isn't in lower difficulties. However, you don't actually have to kill the champions. I mean, you can, but you can also just run past them depending on what the simulation mission is. So consider that and just get it done as quickly as possible. It's just the completion you're going after. And so, once you've collected the final chest at the end and the mission ends, your quest step is going to update, and you're going to have to go back to the Exo Stranger and then travel to the nearby Ziggurat. You're going to be teleported once you reach the top into the pyramid ship, where you then commune with the darkness and get your aspect. Now, very importantly, this is going to work just like how I explained on your first character, but once you turn this quest in and get that aspect on your first character, for example, I was on Titan, you can then switch to your alternate characters and you skip that entire quest. So, I log on to my Warlock here, I simply go and talk to the Stranger, and she has the quest for me, but it just has me go to the Ziggurat. And then I commune with the darkness, and I get my aspect instantly. Switch to the Hunter, same thing. So it's gonna let you get all of your aspects for all of your characters very quickly. And so, moving on from there, let's talk about what these aspects do. Firstly, the Titan has Diamond Lance. It has 1 fragment slot, and it says shatter or defeat targets with stasis abilities to create a stasis lance. And you can see that right here. I throw a cold snap grenade, it freezes the target, I kill the target, and I have this lance I can then pick up with the interact key. Once I hold it, if I keep holding it too long, it will eventually go away. And you'll see that once I actually trigger the lance to spawn, I have a new kind of debuff in the corner of my screen that's Diamond Lance cooldown, which means if I was to freeze another enemy and shatter them and kill them, I would not get another Diamond Lance. I have to wait until this is gone before I can spawn another one. But remember, it's not all about freezing. Stasis abilities will also trigger this. So if I get a stasis melee kill, as you can see, that spawns a lance. If I kill an enemy with a dust field grenade when they're almost dead, that spawns a lance as well. And of course, if I'm in my super and I get a stasis kill, that spawns a lance. However, if I pick one up in my super, I can actually do that, but then my super goes away. So be careful not to do that. Now, once you do have the lance, there are 2 fire modes. Firstly, you can simply press the shoot button and you throw the lance. You can actually press the ADS button and you'll zoom in just a tiny bit. And then when you hit an enemy with the lance, they will take a little bit of damage and freeze for a short duration. Now, what you can also do is a secondary attack where you press the melee button and that is going to slam the lance into the ground, freezing any enemies around you for a much longer duration than if you were to throw it. So this is actually a pretty cool aspect. It's certainly very fun to use, especially in PvE, but I wonder how effective it is. I am leaning towards actually being pretty good simply because getting a kill on a frozen target is pretty easy. If you're running something like the Armamentarium to give you 2 grenades and then 100 discipline and cold snap grenades, you're gonna freeze a lot of enemies. And then getting these lances that you can slam in the ground or simply throw at people, when you hit people, it basically is like hitting them with another cold snap grenade. They're gonna freeze, not for a long time, but certainly long enough that you can take advantage and likely kill them. However, it's time to move on to the Warlock. Its new aspect is Glacial Harvest. It has 2 fragment slots, and it says freezing targets creates stasis shards around the frozen targets. Higher tier combatants create more shards. So, essentially, this is similar to the other harvest type fragments that the other classes have. As you can see right here, if I freeze a target, I get 2 of these shards for each frozen target. Importantly, you'll notice that if I was to get like a double freeze, if enemies are in close enough proximity, there's 4 of these shards in total. And similar to the lance, you're going to notice the Glacial Harvest cooldown, so there is a little bit of time between when you can spawn these shards. By the way, if you see them travel towards me, that's because I'm using the new fragment also released this season that makes these shards, suck into where you are, which is pretty useful if you are using this aspect. And that's really it for how this aspect works. If you freeze an enemy, they will spawn those shards. And that does include like secondary abilities. For example, the fragment that causes enemies, once you kill them, if they're frozen, to have those seeking projectiles that freeze more guys, that will spawn these shards. Anything that freezes targets will spawn shards. And therefore, this could actually be pretty darn good with the Warlock because its melee ability is guaranteed to freeze if you hit an enemy. So that gives you 2 shards every single time, and that's going to recharge your melee ability. When you pick up shards, those recharge your melee. So it's kind of a synergy with itself. So simply throw on an exotic that gives you an extra melee and have a strength of 100 and you got yourself a really cheesy build right there. But it's time to move on to the last, but certainly not least aspect with the Hunter. If you thought the other 2 aspects were good, wait until you see this one. So it's called Touch of Winter. It has 2 fragment slots, unbelievably, and it says your Glacier Dust Field and Cold Snap grenades have enhanced functionality. So, for Glacial grenades, it's going to add stasis crystals and changes the formation. For Dust Field grenades, it increases the slow field size and creates a small stasis crystal on impact. And for Cold Snap grenades, the Seeker travels farther, faster, and can chain an additional time. Oh my goodness, let's take a look at each one of these in action. So firstly, with the Cold Snap grenade, as you can see, I'm going to throw a normal one here. It simply hits, chains to one target, and then goes off in the wrong direction. I then switch to this new aspect, get my grenade back, and now when I throw it in the same spot, it's going to chain, reverse directions, hit a target, and keep going all the way to a third target. Absolutely unbelievable just how much the tracking and the distance increases with this grenade. And this was already one of the most highly used grenades in PvP. It just got a lot better. But moving on, next we have the Dust Field grenade. And I'm going to throw a normal one first, and you can see the radius is still pretty big. All the targets were sucked. The one on the right didn't make it quite into the Dust Field, but there you have it. I'm now going to switch the aspect on, get my Dust Field back, throw the new one, and oh my goodness, that radius is significantly bigger, and it still has that sucking effect. This radius is so large that you could shut down an entire corridor. I mean, imagine throwing this in a room in some PvP maps. It's going to envelop the entire area, so expect Dust Fields to make a little bit of a comeback simply because of this aspect. But last, and again not least, we have the Glacial grenade. So I'm going to throw the normal one right here, and as you can see, it makes that classic wall formation. Then I'm going to put the aspect on, get my grenade back, and when I throw this one, you can see that instead of a wall, it's now basically a circle or a square around the point of impact. And this is really, really important because imagine if you're trying to freeze a target to then shatter dive. Well, if it's a wall, you have to throw it pretty perfectly. If they're behind that wall, I mean, often if they're behind the wall, they still get frozen, but you know what I mean. If they're too far behind it, they'll escape that freeze. But with this, making it an actual circle, an actual essentially radius around where you're throwing, it means it's going to be a lot easier to put those Glacial grenades where you want them and to freeze the targets you want to get frozen. So, wow! And if you couldn't tell by what I was saying already, this aspect is absolutely powerful enough to make a dent, if not a significant dent, within the PvP meta for sure. And even the PvE meta getting much more powerful grenades is quite good. I foresee a lot of people potentially replacing their shatter dives, which has gotten nerfed quite a bit, or even replacing the slow dodge, because that only has one fragment slot as well, and having more fragment slots is even better, with this to get extremely powerful grenades. You're basically making some of the best grenades in the entire game even better, which is crazy. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.